It's a very good afternoon to all of you. I agree with Ms. Meera Shenoy, what she said, that we've been looking into the macro view since morning, and I think it's time to have a look at the micro level understanding of livelihood as well. So looking, we've been talking about the figures, these mind-boggling figures since morning, but it's always good to reiterate these figures to put us into the right perspective, where we all know that most of the, in future, the working age population is going to be far, far higher. It is going to be in excess, and the people will not be able to work. So that means that we need to have the right skills, which we have been talking about since morning, and whether the right skills will be able to provide them with the right livelihood opportunities or not, that is very, very important. So we know that there is a manpower supply, and we know there is a market demand, and then the road to success is providing them with the right skills. But friends, I would like to ask, is that enough? I think no, because there's a huge information gap in between, like what Mr. Kher said in the morning, that actually there is a huge gap between the aspirations of the youth and what the ground reality is. When we go out to schools in class 11 and 12 and we talk to the children, we talk to the youth what they would like to become, and they would say we want to become doctors and engineers, whereas they do not even have they do not even have science stream in their schools. So there's a huge information gap. There is no access to finances and affordability, that's another concern. And then there are various personal and social issues, like girls not allowed to step out of their houses, or the age-old belief, the hereditary belief that a particular livelihood is going to be of interest. For example, they just want to become teachers and they don't want to explore. So these are some of the issues that we need to address when we talk about livelihood opportunities, and there can be various solutions to it, like career counseling sessions and bank linkages that we've been talking about, the right skill training institutes, awareness campaigns, life skills program. So basically we also need to understand, that's what we do in Navjyoti, not just telling people what to learn and where to learn, but also how to learn. So that's very important when we talk about livelihood. So Navjyoti India Foundation has been transforming lives since 1987. It was started by Dr. Kiran Bedi and other like-minded police officials with the objective of crime prevention through social development. So what we found was that there were a lot of people who were into crimes, a lot of youth who was into crime. Why? Because there was no livelihood opportunity, there was no employment. So we started with a drug de-addiction center. We started from a garage as a detoxification center, and then moved on as a 6 months residential treatment program, and then phased out from this project when we found, because the treated patients had now set up their own drug de-addiction centers, and we have such stories like Jori, who's earning around 40,000 per month and has treated more than 5,000 patients today. So there are many such stories, then there is, we started with something called a Prachadar Salai Kendra for women to provide livelihood opportunities who were into crime, they were into drug peddling. Again, why? Because there were no opportunities, there were no skills, and from there on we have moved on to two models in rural and semi-urban areas called Gram Niketan and Navjyoti Community College, again providing livelihood opportunities. So the vision is to challenge the social inequalities and empower the vulnerable to help themselves. Now coming back to livelihood, so what does livelihood really mean? Is it just a set of economic activities which involves self-employment and wage employment, or it is something beyond that? Well, if we talk about social sciences, we have to expand this definition of livelihood, and it should include social and cultural aspects as well. So livelihood would actually mean the command an individual, family or other social groups have over income and or bundles of resources. So when we say resources is access to information, cultural knowledge, legal rights and tools, how they are able to use that, and social networking, whether they get the right platform to explore more opportunities in livelihood or not, and what are the physical resources which are accessible in their own community. So that brings us to the aspect of the 5 core asset categories which are very much conspicuous in determining livelihood and sustainability. So what are these 5 categories? And they're all interlinked, they're all interdependent. That's human capital, natural capital, financial capital, physical capital and social capital. So when we say human capital, we have to map their skills, knowledge, their ability to labor, their health. If I talk about health, we have case studies where we provided livelihood opportunities after right skilling to young girls, youth, but their health conditions did not allow them to continue with the work that they had got into. Then the natural capital, what are the natural resources? Financial capital. Does that only include the earnings or does that also include the savings? For example, a woman who stitches clothes for her own family, will that not be livelihood because she is saving? So we need to really understand the definition of livelihood in the local context from the eyes of the beneficiaries. And then the physical capital like infrastructure, shelter, buildings, adequate water supply, nutrition, and social capital, as I said, networking or the platforms that are available to the community to enhance their livelihood opportunities, where there is a relationship of trust, where there is free flow of information. Holistic view when we talk about the livelihood opportunities. Now, if I bring forth some of the case studies that the work that Navjyoti has been doing in these the 5 core aspects that we're talking about. See, human capital, what we've done is we have started community college to widen and strengthen opportunities for creating human capital for which enhances the employability and self-reliance amongst the community, amongst the youth. So we have a 4C model called which we say competent. Which makes the youth competent, compassionate, conscientious, and the change makers. So we provide them with the right skills, link them with we have market linkages. We have tied up with BPOs who provide them livelihood opportunities right at their doorsteps. Because girls are not allowed to step out of their houses, and we have success stories like Karampal, who's there with us today here, was once dependent on family, is now self-dependent. She did a course in stitching and she stitches her own clothes, she does her savings, and now she's also pursuing her higher education, and she did IT course from the community college and now is earning 4,000 per month apart from continuing her studies. Then there is a story of Arman, who's son of a cloth seller, who used to stitch bags, the jute bags in the morning, then used to come to her college, then again go back to school, go back again, then he used to go back to his house again, stitch these bags. Now after he did this course from our college, his results were not even out and he got a job in the BPO, and today he's just not looking back. He's moved on from 8,000, earning 8,000 per month, he's moved on to earning 12,000 per month. So there are many such success stories when you talk about the human capital. Coming to the natural capital, we also need to see what are the assets available in the community, in the local villages. For example, we have a success story wherein in a village in Navjyoti in Haryana, we've constructed check dams, gate structures, recharge wells. So apart from the environmental benefits wherein the water level increased from 60 to 96 feet, 30 acres of agricultural land was put to productive use. So that's what we call as livelihood. And not only that, rupees 3 lakhs were generated in 8 months in the village through daily wages. So again, so the point is we need to see what are the assets in the community. Talking about financial capital, we all are aware about self-employment and wage employment. We have self-help groups wherein 1,500 women have started saving activities and they have saved rupees 40 lakhs. There's a saving of 40 lakhs rupees in 110 groups. That is coupled with adult literacy programs. We provide them with bank linkages, and women, they have their own shops, they're into dairy farming, they have their tractors, they have assets like generators which they have rented out to the banks and are earning rupees 5,000 to 10,000 per month. Physical capital, if we talk about physical capital, then infrastructure, water supply management, access to seeds, etc. So another case study of a potter's village, again in Navjyoti, where we set up solar water pumps in primary school and we connected that with the potter's village. Now what were the benefits? School attendance, it increased to 90%. It was a girls' primary primary school where the girls did not, they never used to come to schools, or they used to drop out, or used to go back to their homes in the lunch hours. So with access to these solar water pumps, one, the attendance ratio increased. Another thing, the livelihood opportunities in the Potters village, it also increased incrementally. There was an incremental increase from rupees 1,000 to 6,000 per month, and during Diwali season they earn up to rupees 30,000 per month. And then talking about the social capital, where they get a platform, and there is network, there are connections, there is participation of the community. So we have a model called Gram Niketan, wherein we which envisions to build leadership capacities in the community, and it is comprehending the efforts of nation by, through personal training. So we have case studies of Seema, who's there with us again today here. Seema, who's a housewife with an unemployed alcoholic husband and was a victim of domestic violence, she's now turned into an entrepreneur. We have provided her linkages with the with Krishi Vigyan Kendra, where she got exposed to something called masala making, and now she's a turnover of 88,000 rupees in 6 months and learning MS Excel to manage accounts. And husband is also, not only she herself, but husband is also gained livelihood, and he's helping out in the packaging of the spices. Then government schemes. There are studies, there are women like Ram Pyari who are now advocating government schemes in the villages, linking women with the pension schemes and Ladli Yojanas. Girls like Kiran who had alcoholic father, she ensures that Pani Panchayat meetings are conducted regularly. Now these Pani Panchayats, they have been set up for sustainability, for community ownership, and Pani Panchayat has rupees 13,000 in their account, and she herself is taking tuitions in the community. And then there are studies like Rubeda, who is advocating who's creating awareness about RTE amongst children in the community and linking the children in nearby schools such as DPS. And last case study is that of Sumit. Now Sumit says when he enrolled himself in the Gram Niketan sessions, he said everybody learned to go out. The women, they learned to step out and face the world, while I was brought back home by Gram Niketan. So he was a deviant youth who was into bad company, and he is now transformed into an auto rickshaw driver. He's earning 5,000 to 6,000 rupees per month. So what the message behind this is that when we talk of livelihood, we need to have the holistic view of livelihood. Now, what we also did was we did an impact assessment on all these parameters. We identified the vulnerability context in this village, Abipur, which was semi-arid zone. And as I said, 30 acres of land was flooded during rains. There was soil erosion. There was low groundwater table, low socio-economic status of women. Casteism issue was very high. High dropout rates in schools. So we mapped, on these parameters, what are the assets available to plan the livelihood strategies. And we also identified if there were any practices which were hindrance. So it was predominantly the patriarchal society where women were not allowed to have any say in the decision making. So what the community did, we asked them to rate where they see themselves in this pentagon, and that's the red pentagon, the small pentagon that was created by the community themselves. And that gave us a direction, what could be the livelihood strategies that can be planned in the community. So what we did was we brought all the stakeholders together, because the social status was very low, as we see in this pentagon. Watershed management was another project which could have been implemented. Pani Panchayat, solar energy projects, SNGs and federations could have been formed. We linked them with the banks. There were skill enhancement programs. And the outcomes were clearly visible: reduced vulnerability, increased assets, sustainable use of natural resources, increased income, leadership enhancement, child education, especially girls, improved socio-economic status of women. So after we implemented these livelihood strategies, again we went back to the stakeholders and we asked them to map on these assets, and this is what their perception about livelihood was, the yellow pentagon as we see. But then we also know that there's still more to be achieved. So, for example, the physical asset, if we see, the women and the community, the villagers say that, we need to work on the hospitals or the veterinary hospitals. Now, this is directly linked to livelihood, because if there are no good veterinary hospitals and the women or the community or the villagers are involved in dairy farming, so it will solve no purpose. Now as an NGO, we have to be facilitators, we have to empower women or the community to advocate for their rights rather than constructing it ourselves. So what we see is that there are, in this livelihood ecosystem, there are local NGOs who know what is the need of the community, who are accessible, very close to the community. There are certification institutes, there are quality management experts doing quality audits and setting standards. There are training institutes with good infrastructure and trainers. There are content developers with up-to-date curriculum. There are integrated ecosystem with all the stakeholders coming together. But at the same time, it has to be decentralized one, which has to be specific to the local approach. So if you ask us what livelihood to us means, to Navjyoti means, I would say livelihood is a way of empowering people to lead their lives, to live their lives and then to earn for themselves. Thank you very much. Jai Bharat.